everyone, I'm Kara with Friday Night Light Ministries, talking to you today in FNL Reload, our midweek encouragement about criticism. So it's very easy for us to be critical and so hard for us to overcome it. Somehow we just like to think that we're better than other people, but we're really not. See, Colossians 3:12-14 says, "Put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. If one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you. And above all these, put on love." So are we showing kindness and humility and meekness when we're critical of other people? And to be clear, criticalness is defined as containing or making severe or negative judgments or evaluations about other people or about how a process is done or whatever. Romans 12:3 says, we ought to not think more highly of ourselves, and we should think of ourselves with sober judgment. Look, we all got stuff. We all have stuff that we need to work on, areas we need to grow in. I mean, we all can be impatient. We all can do things we shouldn't be doing and things that we know better to do. So when we're being overly critical of other people, we're not shining the light in our own areas in the dark, right? So ultimately, when we're being consistently critical of how people do this or how they approach that and thinking, I would do it this way and I would do it that way, we're basically thinking that we're better than them, and that can lead to resentment, which leads to bitterness, which leads to anger, and it doesn't lead to anything good. And I'm not saying you shouldn't approach somebody who is in sin and handling something the wrong way or something that's unbiblical. The Bible is very clear in Matthew 18 about approaching people and talking to them about something that they're doing in sin, talking to them, not everybody else, talking to them. And if they don't receive it, then bring a leader with you. But I am saying we don't know where people are coming from. We don't know what their morning was like. We don't know what their childhood was like. We don't know why they're reacting or doing things in the way that they're doing them. And so to allow ourselves to somehow think that we're better than them or we would make different decisions in the same situation, we can't really comment on that. And if you're not the critical person and you see critical people, pray for them. Most have really had a difficult life experience, especially as children. Oftentimes they feel sorry for themselves. They have a kind of a victim's mentality. This lends them to thinking that the only way they can get ahead is by being the judge of other people. It's kind of something that was ingrained in them when they were children, and unless they're conscious of it, it's hard to make a concerted effort to get over it. So nobody grows up thinking, I want to be the critical person. I want to be the fault finder. I want to always look for somebody to be messing up, or I want to be the person that grades people with impossible standards. Nobody grows up wanting to be that person, right? So we need to give people reasonable standards to live life by. For example, years ago, somebody said to me, "You just want me to be perfect." And I was like, no, I don't expect you to get all A's. I expect you to do your homework. I expect you to show up for class. I expect you to be prepared for class, do the classwork. See, that's reasonable. That's not an unreasonable standard. An unreasonable standard would be like, yeah, you better get all A's and you better not get anything wrong in any test. That's unreasonable, and that leads to criticalness. So give people reasonable expectations and standards, especially if you're a critical person. And if you are a critical person, I say do a heart check. Ask God to reveal whatever area is broken in there so that you can live free. Because being critical and judgmental of other people all the time is not freedom, it's bondage. And God is very clear in His Word. He doesn't want us living in bondage. If you're not a critical person, then pray for those you know that are, because God really can get to the root of it and bring healing in their life, but they got to have somebody praying for them. So remember what Psalms 19:14 says, "May the words of my mouth, my meditation thoughts, and every movement of my heart be always pure and pleasing, acceptable before your eyes, my only Redeemer." So remember, whatever we think about becomes our moods, becomes our reactions. So make sure you're thinking about what you're thinking about and you're not being overly critical of all the people around you, because we all got our own stuff. So that's what I have for this week's Reload. Make sure you find us on Facebook and YouTube at Friday Night Light, or Instagram at The Friday Light. You can always find us on our website and give to this ministry at FridayNightLight.us. We'll see you next week.